this is so wonderful. I'm so honored to have you on here.
I am so excited. Let's get started.
Okay, great. I just want to introduce you to anyone who doesn't know you or is not following you and doesn't know your special story. I've been following you for so long.
How long?
Um, well, I met you, God, many years ago in LA. You did a reading for me.
In person?
Um, yeah, yes.
Do you remember where?
Yeah, it was at a vintage store in Eagle Rock.
I remember that store. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I've been following you ever since. So, um, I'm watching your journey, and so I've been a fan, admirer, someone who, really cherishes your uniqueness, and so it's so nice to just do this. I'm like amazed.
I'm excited.
So near. Yeah, Nery Guide is an enchanting soul who I met many years ago in Los Angeles. She's an esoteric beauty and a spiritual guide for all souls needing to find alignment and balance in their lives. She provides channeling sessions, intimate guidance, and advice for your concerns. And she does an amazing summary of your weekly teroscopes, which are so helpful. Absolutely love them and so appreciative of your generosity. I'm so grateful to have all her wisdom and knowledge and that she bestows upon us. And she truly is a gorgeous gem of a soul.
Aw, you're so sweet.
Yeah. So the Fool, is that a good card?
The Fool
I'm
is New
looking at.
Journeys, and it is a full moon in Taurus. It's a lunar eclipse, meaning an emotional new beginning. Taurus is ruled by Venus. So we are all being challenged to have new beginnings within our connection to our hearts so that we can feel free and feeling like we're really being guided by our heart. We often doubt that we're on the right path, but as long as your heart is happy, you're being guided from within.
I love that. Yeah, it's so important to have a happy heart. That is truly the key to find just peace within and be happy with every single circumstance, even though it's challenging. Um, what what is going on in the world? I have some questions that I've been wanting to ask you,
Okay.
and I, d- I mean, we just got to start with the energy and frequency that I think we all can feel. Some of us can't really we don't really know how to explain what it is, but can you elaborate on your perspective of what is going on in the world?
I think that what's interesting is that everything is a reflection of what energetically must happen in order for there to be a shift in our choices. And as a human race, as a human family, as a soul connected paradigm, we are being tested to choose the fact that we're all the same tribe. And sometimes that means that really dramatic things have to happen in order for us to come together. That is why the intensity of the energy is creating unification within humanity in some parts and creating the opposite in other parts. But really what's required is acceptance that we are all trying to find our balance and our way to feel safe. All of these challenges that are happening in the world right now are about feeling safe to what seems to be an external force that is seeking for us to dismantle what we're really here to do, which is come together. And this has happened over the beginning of time has been this way, like this is the challenge of our souls. Our souls are meant to create these polar opposites so that we see what really matters. And as a human race, we've come together time and time again. And this is no different. And usually it's not as many things. And I think that the reason that it feels like a lot of things on the collective is because there's a different way of connecting that allows us to visually see what's happening all around the world in comparison to, let's say, before we had that availability. And so we're emotionally able to tap into an energy of fear a lot easier because we're visually seeing the expressions of it consistently. So what I would say is that what's most important is to find a balance within your own life so that you can collectively give to the world through your nucleus, i.e., those people close to you, in the most positive way, because that creates a vibration of alignment. And if we all do this, right, if we all find alignment and give love to the people that we can give love to, that becomes a larger frequency if done in mass. What really, this idea that we can save the world and collectively go externally and try to throw our arms around the world does, unfortunately, is disempowers us. It feels too overwhelming.
Yes, I completely understand that.
So if you can just do it with yourself, your family, your community, your friends, and you start there, if more people do that, it will collectively shift the energy without it being like sticking the whole apple in your mouth instead of taking bites out of the apple.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise we
That
feel
is
frozen, right? We feel frozen in the fact that we can't change the larger picture. But we can by choosing to take one bite consistently.
And I think, and I mean, that is just great advice. I think also a lot of people want to control things, and a lot of these things are out of our control, that are happening, externally. We can control our perception of it, possibly, right? That's the goal. But if we come across something that's so heart wrenching, and you just want to help, you want to fix it, you don't want it to be that way. So I think also maybe people fixate on that control factor, that they want to control the situation.
Well, you can control
Possibly.
circumstances and situations by the choices that you make. Let's say that you don't like that, you're not in agreement of where we put our money, let's say. Say that we're putting our money towards, let's say plastic. You don't believe that there should be plastic in the world. Whatever it is for you,
Good one,
that you
Nery.
hold as just the devil. Should it be plastic because it destroys our earth or whatever? Then don't buy plastic. Buy glass. This is how you can take control of the things that you feel are evil in the world. By what you place your importance and energy in can very simply have a shift and a change by what you give attention to or what you choose to do every day. Say that you don't like, I don't know, there are so many things, right, that we can go ahead and hang our hat to and not do so that we feel like we're not part of the problem. And that is the point. What's going on in Israel right now. If you don't want to be behind that, see who's giving money to that. There's plenty of companies that are giving money to Israel in order to continue bombing children. Don't give money to that. Nabisco is one of them. Look at the list. Educate yourself. Taking your attention, your money, what you do have control in your present life by educating yourself will help you feel less disempowered. because you can just take away the thing that would fuel it. And then you can just say to yourself, well, I'm just one person. What is the difference between me doing it? Well, the point being is that you energetically give to the things that you believe in and make yourself feel more empowered by doing that.
Yes, absolutely. Completely agree. Although it's hard, sometimes I do go to Starbucks and I have a latte and I'm trying not to. I really, really am. um, Thank you for that. That is actually just completely full of wisdom. Um, so with that being said, this this reality that we're in where we feel this energy, like right now it feels chaotic and really intense, and it seems like, from what I have, from my perspective, and I'm sure a lot of other people feel this way, this is some kind of strange, either it's a big dream that we're all living in. I'm really having a hard time defining what reality is, because every time you do educate yourself, like you just mentioned, you start to discover that the reality that you thought isn't the reality that truly exists. And then that's, I guess, a process of education, awakening, figuring out what's really going on. And it seems to just expand and expand. And we're in this strange kind of, I don't know if you'd call it a hologram,
Simulation, what
simulation.
would you call it?
Um,
I would say that what's interesting about what you're expressing is that I think it distracts from what's important. If your soul is here having an experience in whichever body it chose to have the experience, should it be a dog, a cat, a person, a tree, but it might be inside a snow globe that somebody shakes up and they're not aware that there are that there's souls in there that are being affected by you shaking up that snow globe. Do you think those people inside that snow globe see what's happening as like an assimilation, as a false truth, as a false reality, or are they just having an experience that their soul chose to evolve and become a different experience on a soul level? We're energy, we're frequency, we're different paradigms of that energy and frequency. And the reality that you're in, your soul chose. Why it chose it doesn't matter. Where it chose it doesn't matter. How you're experiencing it is the only thing that matters, because that's why you're having that experience. It isn't in the question of why. The question of why prevents you from experiencing. It takes you outside of the experience. It makes you look at the experience and no longer being in control of the choices to shift the experience. So what you're saying may be true. We may all be grains of sand on another universe that we can't even perceive from how minuscule we are. But how does that matter in your everyday life? How does that make you feel empowered in your everyday life?
well, I guess, yeah, no, and I guess also the concept of, okay, so let's say we are a grain of sand, in this big universe, multiverse, but you start to, just like the Truman Show, he starts to wake up and, like, he starts to see, like, okay, his reality is really strange. He's starting to get clues. And then he finally wakes up to the fact that he's on a TV show, and then escapes and is able to leave and exit and go back to normal life.
But which
Where,
one was the normal life, really, if you think about it?
right. Well, at least he knows he's not on a TV. He doesn't want to be on a TV show. Right.
Right,
So
he
he goes and
doesn't, but
goes
then
through the
he's
door.
still living a reality that he then has How about if the Truman Show is simply moving from one television show to the next? How about if if it was a
Yeah.
series, it just continued and perpetuate to be in that experience? And waking up to that
Yeah.
doesn't really matter, right? How does one have more of a
Mhm.
choice than the other? The problem in thinking that way, and I think what I'm trying to get to is we create our own reality in spite of the circumstances in our lives. Let's think of the people that are being unfortunately bombed in Palestine and Israel, and they have no
Mhm.
choice in the matter. They have two choices: stay somewhere that isn't safe anymore or leave. And no matter what they
Mhm.
experienced, they have to make a decision about what will get them to the next place. Does it matter
Mhm.
if it's a reality? It is a reality, right? It's a reality that one thing is safe and another thing isn't. So once we
Mhm.
come to the knowledge that we are living beings only for a short period of time, there's only one exit. It's the end and the shed of this physical body. So how you decide to experience that as a soul, no matter the circumstances, is the point.
Fascinating.
Right?
I get so
Oh,
yeah.
there's a
No, I
little kitten
agree.
right
I
there.
mean,
Sorry.
I think that's the most important thing is to really be here now, and really appreciate every moment and learn what you can, during this time before we do exit. And then who knows what happens to the soul right after
Well,
that.
exactly. The soul then has
There's
another
theories,
lesson
there's
to go
theories.
through, whichever choice it makes. I think that what's interesting is that the experience that you're having really should be evoked by the emotion that you would like to leave behind. What we leave behind is not our physical experience, but how we create an impression upon others. I think that that's what's the most important thing as a soul. What impression did you leave with others?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that reminds me of my girlfriend who recently just passed away. And so heartbreaking. I just anyway, but she affected all of us in such a miraculous way. We all loved her so much. So when I think of her, it's like this. I feel a happiness. I feel like she was just an incredible character, and everyone loved her. So I agree with you with what you're saying. Hopefully, you and I both exit like that.
Yep. But
Right? Like, oh, we loved them. Um, how did you find the connection with reading tarot?
well,
Like, how did that come about? Because I love tarot. I do it myself. I don't read for other people just because I feel for me it's a big responsibility and I'm just not ready for that, to give people advice like that. But I do find a lot of answers when I do it for myself. And so I just want to know, like, what's your story with that?
well, tarot kind of found me. A little background is that I'm from Spain and I was raised Catholic. And in my upbringing, anything that had to do with esoteric knowledge was seen as witchcraft and the devil. So I think that unbeknownst to me, I have always had a very highly intuitive sense of things. Um, I just knew things and they would come through me in a very clear way. Like and I didn't have a filter. I would just say them out loud. But when I was 18 years old, I had a relationship, my first relationship, and I moved in with a boyfriend and we lived together. And in the short span of time that we lived together, he would lie. And my intuition would become very clear to me, almost like a movie in my head, like a sitcom of what he was lying about and what he was actually doing. And of course, when you're that age, you're kind of embarrassed, and I think actually most people find embarrassment in their fears regarding untruths, and they don't like to share their intuitive hits. So I would start expressing what he was doing to him. Like when he would lie to me, I would go, I had a dream that this is what you actually did. And it would be very detailed, like a sitcom. Like I knew exactly where he went, what he was doing. Like he was doing drugs, by the way. And so I literally
Mhm.
would know where he was, who he'd been with, and what he'd done. And I would describe it to him, and he would always lie and say, oh, I'm sorry that you had that dream. But he would turn white as a fucking ghost. So
Oh my
what
gosh.
ended up happening is that one day when he called me to say that he was going to be working a double shift at work, I hung up the phone, and what I saw in my head, instead of waiting for him to get home, I just got in the car and drove to what I saw. And I caught
Mhm.
him doing exactly what I saw. And
Oh.
so I said to him, well, I guess you're caught. And that was the end of our relationship. This was August of my 19th year. And that
Mhm.
Christmas, I had a knock on my door, and it was him, high as a kite, with a gift in his
Hmm.
hand, saying to me, Nettie, somebody, because he was saying that he was seeing people because he was high as a kite, is telling me that this
Mhm.
is what you need to do and this is what you're meant to do with your life. And so he gave me a box that had tarot cards in it. And all I heard was, I lied to you. You were right. And so I told him to leave. I called my best friend right
Mhm.
after, and she said to me, she goes, Nettie, do you not understand that you're not normal? You're not normal. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, you'll tell me that I'm going to meet a guy named Jack, and he'll be wearing pink pants, and then I'm going to date him for 3 months. And she goes, and I'll go out of my way to prove you wrong, and then I'll date a guy wearing pink pants when I met him for 3 months. And I just hate it. You're always saying things like that. Or, she goes, you just say things and they happen. And I had no idea. I had no idea that this was something, first of all, that was an anomaly to me. And second of
Mhm.
all, I didn't know that I was doing it as often as I was doing it, and that it was something that not everybody else was aware of. So what she said to me is, she
Mhm.
goes, let go of the idea that those cards hold any power other than showing you maybe a way to direct your intuition, and learn them
Mhm.
so that maybe you don't just blurt out things to people. And so that's what
Yeah.
started my journey in regards to the tarot. And I taught myself, and I would use them as a tool to help others. And then it became where I got more phone calls for me to do that than anything else. And so I started charging money.
Mhm.
And so here I am 30 some odd years later.
Wow. So you talked about the tarot being a tool to direct your intuition. Now,
Their
that's how
language.
I see it.
Yes.
Sorry?
Their language. Yes.
Right. So, how did it start though? How are these pictures with the numbers? I mean, for anyone who's not aware of tarot or doesn't, has heard of it, has no idea what it is, um, what is the history behind it?
Okay. So,
And why are they choosing specific pictures?
okay. So I will say that I felt very overwhelmed with the idea that there were 78 cards and that I needed to learn them. And I taught myself how to do it. And everybody who has ever picked up tarot will find their own way. But
Hmm.
the history of tarot and what I've received from Source over doing this for a long period of time of why the tarot was created was because to have knowledge and to have a connection to spirit that allows you to see the future for other people became dangerous in the beginning of time. In medieval times, when there were, you know, people of power who would take mystics in so that they always knew what was coming. Mystics had to create a tool that would take the information out of the mystic. So the mystic wasn't the person that came up with that information, i.e., you won't kill the messenger. And so they created
Mm-hmm.
this tool in order to take the power away from the mystic, in order for them to stop getting, let me think, burned at the stake. So this tool was created as a form to take the messages in a less powerful way. If someone holds the power of knowing things that are going to happen, they are, in essence, responsible for information that maybe someone that doesn't want you to know that information will create. It's dangerous to have that power. So this tool that's how this was created. That's how the tarot came along. The tarot told me.
Wow, I never even knew that, to be honest. And how did they choose the pictures with these characters? Like, if you know this information, which I'm
I
sure you
don't
do,
think,
like the
I
whole.
think that that's
Mhm.
not really, first of all, it started with the regular deck of cards, right? It started with the regular deck
Ah,
of cards, and there were only
mhm,
52. And then the other cards are derived from what we're here to do, which is evolve through the Kabbalic energetic evolution of our soul. And that's what the other set is, which I believe is another 16 cards, right? It's the 12 zodiac signs and then the 4 cards
mhm,
uh, of life, which is water, earth, air, and fire. So
mhm,
it's all interconnected with astrology as well
mhm.
as the psychosis of our humanity of playing out whatever it is that our soul is here to learn in the dynamics between
Amazing.
people.
Mhm. Yes, amazing. I personally can't believe how on point the cards are to even showing you whether, let's say your boyfriend's lying to you and he's cheating on you with a woman with blonde hair, that sometimes you can actually see the information, like it's a blonde woman. I don't know. I find it's fascinating to me.
Well, and I
Fascinating.
think what's interesting that what you're saying is that, and this is the thing that I will like to say about the tarot, is that we
Hmm.
all are seeking a confirmation of a knowledge that's within us that is accessed or confirmed easier through whatever we give power to. Should it be a song that we hear on the radio? Should it be a sign that we see on the street? Or the tarot that we choose to have a relationship with, right? Because certain tarot
Hmm.
cards are the honest ones that we play with, and the other ones are the playful ones that let us be more joyous in them, right? It's whatever associated relationship and communication you have with that specific. That's why the tarot card for you, let's say there's a specific tarot card for you that holds one specific message for you. Like I have a tarot card that I've decided is internet dating, right?
Which one's that?
It's
Which
the
one's that?
it's the page of swords. That's internet dating for me.
Okay.
So if source wants you to internet date, the page of swords will come up right next to the lovers.
Funny.
So
Okay.
we give the language to the set of tarot. We give it. It's whatever you've decided. What I'm saying to you is that
Hmm.
your relationship to the tarot, to your intuition, will evolve, change, and shift over time. There isn't a wrong
Mm.
way to read the tarot. That's why when certain people get mad that some tarot decks are made that are like just kitties or something. And they get all like, well,
Oh,
you
those are cute.
should,
Those are cute
right.
though.
But what I'm saying is that the traditionalists, right?
Right.
I think that
Mhm.
in general, it doesn't matter what tool you use in order to connect to your guidance. Just connect to your
Mhm.
guidance, your heart, your intuition, whatever works.
Right, like, those stones that the Celtics used to read
Right,
and,
the
uh
ruins.
right, mhm. Yeah, go back, to what you were saying when connecting to your guidance. I know, like, during your readings, you always connect with source, and you use that word source. What are you referring to when you use that word source?
Okay, so I have been doing this for a very long time, and initially I thought my intuition was something that was a part of me. And doing it for such a long period of time, I realized that it isn't me. It's something that comes through me that I am
Mhm,
very in tuned with, like a radio station. Like I'm very in tune
mhm,
with a radio station that has the information for all of our souls. And we're all on different journeys
mhm.
in whatever our soul chose to experience so that it could learn. And so I believe that source comes from the same place, which is this beautiful, heart centered place like our parent that is there for us to choose the higher aspect of what our soul wants to evolve into. I gave it the name source because it sources everybody's guidance, their frequency, where they are. Now, where you are now compared to where you'll be, let's say 5 years from now, is a completely different place. But the frequency in which you want to grow into comes from the same source. It's the higher
Would you
part of you.
mhm. And then what is would that be what you considered God?
I
Or
believe in God. I believe in a higher form of consciousness that I call God because
mhm,
it's an amazing, beautiful word. It's like saying, do you believe in love? Well, we're
mhm,
given it that name, but some people use love as a codependent energy. Does that take away the fact that there is another form of love that's higher frequency? You understand? So
mhm,
what we give credence to, we give power to. You can name it God, universe, you can name it goddess, you can name it whatever you fucking please. As long as it's doing good for you energetically and moving you in the direction of a feeling of connectiveness to a pure love within yourself. So I hate getting caught up in names because
yes,
say
I
that my name
understand.
wasn't Nettie
Mhm,
and I gave everybody the opportunity to name me. And I said, whatever my energy reads to you is what I want you to call me. And if that energy
mhm.
is beautiful, wouldn't you want it to be that name?
I think we all get tied down with titles, and it's just a
Labels.
way and labels. Yeah, it's a strange way of, like, attaching to something. And then once you attach to something, then you can't let it go because that forms your world, these attachments that we have, right? I use the term God too, just because I like the sound of it. But I also was raised Catholic and went to a private Catholic school my whole life. So God was something just ingrained in me. But when I think of the term, I don't necessarily think of God from the Catholic or Christian's perspective. I think of it similar to you as the force that, the Jedis use in Star Wars, the force that makes the sun rise and set, the force that's in every animal and creature, this beautiful, like you were saying, energy that is omnipresent and also so incredibly beyond our comprehension.
But when you
This
think of
infinite
that, and
intelligence
when you think of that force, the emotion that you experience is what?
is love,
Right.
love.
And peace.
Unconditional.
It's this form of feeling
Mhm.
completely connected to that love, which gives you this feeling of peace. So
What would you
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No,
Mhm.
what would I want?
Well, no, I have a lot of friends who are still, like, trying to figure out what their relationship is with God, source, higher power, whatever you wanna call it. They are kind of like, "What do you mean when you talk about God, connecting with God?" A lot of them don't understand what I'm talking about because a lot of them don't feel it in their heart, like you're saying, that love that you feel when you believe that there is a higher power or you believe in God. Is it a matter of believing it? Is it a matter of people are so they're so numb because they're so distracted with so many things around the world that they can't feel anymore? They can't feel that love inside of them.
So I think that what
Does that make sense?
I think that what you've just communicated is really powerful, because how you opened up this podcast had to do with what do I believe is going on in the world. And I think that it's coming full circle by what you've just stated. We are all seeking to experience that connection to each other, that we are one family, one human family that is here to love. And so when they don't feel that connection to God or that connection to something that is a higher power, what they're really in essence saying is, I don't feel seen. I don't feel heard. I don't feel unconditionally loved. And that's why I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel connected to that power that lives within us, not outside of us, for an expression of that experience to be confirmed. Because what God is not a need to confirm that God exists. What God is an experience that we're emotionally connected to something deeper that unconditionally
Mm-hmm.
loves us in spite of our human faults.
That brings tears to my
I
eyes.
know.
But I know. I feel it too. Every time I talk about God and everything, I feel it in my heart. It's very overwhelming, but many cannot feel what we're feeling. And I think, the reason why I started this podcast is because I want to provide solutions for people to come back to this, to come back to
To
source, to
that
come back home.
connection, which is the knowledge that
Mhm.
we're all lovable in spite.
And we're all one, like you were
Yeah. And we're
saying.
all connected. So the choices that we make should be from that place of knowing that even somebody that pisses you off as you're driving down the street. I have a perfect example. Source is reminding me of this because I'm in California right now. I'm in LA.
Yes.
And when I drove my daughter to school one day, as we all parents know, morning fucking traffic to take your child to school
Mhm.
is one of the most hectic
Mhm.
things that we can do. And I was driving down the street one day and some guy cut me off. And I put my hand out the window and I put a peace sign up. But the guy thought I was flipping him off.
Uh-huh.
And so he then decided to slow down. And then he recognized that my hands were up, actually putting peace up. And as I went to pass him, he looked at me, he goes, "You." And I go, "I was loving you." And he was so disarmed by that because he was expecting me to be a
Wow.
hateful person, which I did the opposite. That he, like,
Mhm.
all of a sudden he goes, "I'm sorry." And
Oh, no way.
he said, "I'm sorry." But think of
Okay.
that. My daughter was in the car next to me in the
Mhm.
passenger seat, and she goes, "He was just expecting you to be hateful, Mama." And I go, "I know, but I wasn't."
The power of that is so neutralizing, and we all need to do that. It takes practice, definitely takes patience, and you really have to gain control of your emotions. I'm from LA. I lived in LA all of my life, and I moved to Orange County about 6 years ago. And let me tell you, the traffic, the energy of LA to me, there's so many beautiful, amazing parts to it. I just couldn't take I couldn't take the traffic
Yeah.
for sure. I could not take the traffic. And I was very sensitive. I am sensitive to energy, and I needed to be by the ocean, and I needed to be in a place that was very calm and healing and peaceful for me. So that's why I moved. But I have learned since then how to neutralize my emotions. It has taken me a long time, and I'm in my 40s. I'm going to, admit my age. I'm in my mid 40s, and I don't care.
Hey, I'm
I don't
50
care.
and
Oh,
I
oh,
I'm definitely excited about this chapter because something that I realize that you just made a really amazing comment. You said you neutralized the aggressive energy around you. Now, you're an empath, you're energetically open. I obviously have been an empath for a long time in my life. But as we get older, we realize that we are not doing anybody any service by holding our emotions in a neutral place. I think what I did when I turned 40, by the way, and now it's been about 10 years, is that I became
mhm.
softer in my compassion for what makes people angry. So once I
Mhm.
understood what and why people were so aggressive, and I would take that into consideration, even when they would spew their energy towards me. What I realized is that the most amazing power there is in diffusing that is compassion, because you're not taking it personal. You're seeing this as a pattern that they do with whomever is around them. And so what
Mhm.
happens when you do this and you have this awakening, per se, is that then life starts showing you the magic of being emotionally available to people's best. They then
Mm.
feel like they have the ability to step into that, right? Because what happens is,
Mhm.
think about us as humans, we're habitually just reacting until we take full responsibility for what we bring to the table. And then when we take responsibility for what we bring to the table, if we just hold a space of compassion, you're giving somebody the choice to respond differently.
So true. I mean, I think that's the key. That really is the key because you can neutralize any situation from that. And I think people are waiting. They want you to be giving them the space to be truly who they are. They want to feel safe and comfortable. Everyone, all of us want to feel we have the same needs pretty much, right? We want to be loved, we want to feel safe. Um, when you're able, like you're saying, to extend that compassion to them, then their exterior walls start to break down and then they feel safe to be able to express their true self.
Yeah. Well, and they also can do it by the practice of you showing up authentically to the moment, because they are then disarmed without reactiveness. The
Yes,
more that you're
disarmed. I love that
authentic and
word.
then you say,
Mhm.
well, I wasn't looking at it that way at all. I was just thinking maybe we wanted to go have this instead, because you were talking about
Mhm.
having a new kind of experience when you wanted to go have dinner. Like, think of your personal relationships, and we get into these patterns of tit or tat. Do you want to go have Mexican, or
Mhm.
do you want to have da da da? And then you throw something out there that they don't expect, like Thai. And they're like, what? Thai? And I'm like, well, last week you were talking about trying something different. And so I thought to myself, how about if I just throw that out there? That was what my intention was. You know what I'm saying? We
Mhm.
habitually have certain relationships. The reason the relationships in our lives that are closest to us are the most contentious is because that's where we get lazy.
Mm.
We get the laziest there. We get the most comfortable being the most unworking towards something better, through our children, through our family, through our partners. That's where we get lazy. And if we actually
Yeah.
put most of the work there, can you imagine how, like, I think of the couples that are power couples. I think that
Mm-hmm.
I look at those couples, let's throw Beckham out there. I look at those.
But we don't know what's really going on, though. Come
I
on.
mean, look how many years they've been together.
Yeah. They
Listen,
look really good
I
on
look at
paper.
them and I think to myself, it doesn't matter what's really going on, it's working. Because
Put their image on a vision board. Yeah.
because think about it. She has been how many things? And he has been
Mm-hmm.
how many things? And then they
Mm-hmm.
have children that are doing well. They don't have any fucked up children. None of their children are like out there like overdoing something. So when you look at things like that, at least from the external,
Mm-hmm.
they're investing in that family. They're investing in something
Mm-hmm.
that is allowing each of them to have their own individual dreams expressed.
Yes,
And
for sure.
that is the goal.
Yeah. And also, like, if I look at my own friends who are very happy with their partners and have a loving relationship with their spouse and everything, I think the central thing is a deep respect
Yeah,
and admiration for each other. And so many people don't respect each other in general. So many friends don't. I mean, I'm surrounded by amazing friends, let me tell you. But, it took a while for me to raise my frequency high enough to attract wonderful people around me. I mean, we have to attract them,
it's true.
right?
It's very true. You have to also
Mhm.
believe that.
Mhm. That you are worthy.
That you are ready to
Uh,
be
you
able
know,
to say no to lower frequency relationships. I think one of the things that happens is that we think that having friendships for long periods of time, that you're supposed to be able to shift those relationships by just committing to them even though they hurt you. Should they be family? Should they be
mhm,
partners? Should they be friends? And what we need to really acknowledge at some point is that some relationships aren't meant to be carried forward, no matter the length of time in which you've invested into them, because they are not rising into the energy
mhm.
of what you're growing into. Something that's essential is to be able
Absolutely.
to grow
Mhm.
within all of your relationships. And that's the Fool right here. It's like you need to let go of the past in order to move to the future in a very light-hearted way that feels like you want to invest in each of these individuals.
My question, really quick, regarding the Fool card, I've always been confused about it because it looks there is a yellow sky, there's not a dark sky and things like that, but he's about to walk off a cliff. What what are your thoughts about that? I was like, is this a good card or not? Like,
Well,
danger ahead, but you don't care.
I think I think that the Fool child is it's, first of all, it's derived by the Aries, and Aries have a tendency to act before they look. So I think the Fool child, depending on what chapter you are in your life,
Hmm.
maybe he's just looking off the edge and looking at where he
Hmm.
wants to go. He's not jumping off the edge. He's just looking off the edge and going, I have this whole beautiful valley and another mountain to climb if I wish. Now, when you're younger,
Mm.
maybe you're about to fall off the fucking cliff, right? Because you didn't look, and the next thing you know, oh, sheezies. But, you have to take that into account in your own personal life. I think What the Fool's really there to do is to guide you into accepting that you can look into the future and see possibility, or you can see obstacle. It's up to you. What fool are you?
I feel like for me, I definitely can resonate with this card because I have completely followed my heart all of my life. When I don't follow my heart is when things go bad. However, following your heart is not like a linear path. There's a lot of ups and downs and confusing moments because you're listening to this inner guidance, and it's not like it completely directs you where you're like, okay, I'm going to go here, right? You just feel it. Then you have all these experiences that sometimes lead you astray, but then it brings you back. But from this card, he's joyous. He's having a good time. He's really loving himself. The sun's shining. And for me, that was always my goal in my life. I'm a Sagittarius. I just want to have fun and love and be joyous, right? But I have faith. I have faith in God. So no matter what I've gone through or was about to embark on, I always knew that God has my back, no matter what. And going back to the whole concept of God, from a Christian standpoint, they talk about having faith, right? Unwavering faith in God. And I think this card reminds me of that. Everything's going to be okay. Even if he kept walking off that cliff, God is going to catch him.
Yeah.
You know,
Even if he's
you
going to
hope.
another life, yep, he's going to catch him. No,
I know.
I think what you're really saying is this, and this is what I think is very interesting, is that I believe that the faith that we're always seeking is to trust our choices, right? To trust our
Mm-hmm.
choices, to trust that each choice was meant for us, even when we find ourselves disappointed and
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately maybe in bad circumstances and situations that we have to choose ourselves in, and that they're meant to teach us something. At the end of the day, the Fool is there to say, no matter what has led you here, you have an option. You can look at it as it's the end of the road, and now I'm going to jump off the cliff and kill myself. Or I can look at the end of the road here as an opportunity to see what horizon I want to live into and take the journey in that
Mm-hmm.
direction. We all have a choice, and that becomes the life in which we live into by how we
Mm-hmm.
feel about our life, no matter what happens. Think of all those children and families that are having devastating experiences right now on the other side of the
Oh,
world.
yeah. It's
And
just, yes.
there's ones that are going to give up, and there's ones that are not.
Mm-hmm.
And that is their choice. If we hold in our heart the ability to have compassion for the fact that we are blessed to not have that experience,
Mm-hmm.
I think as human race, we have to rise up to the fact that this life is a blessing, no matter what
Yeah.
happens. And the only right that we have is to live it as compassionate, as loving, and as filled with love as we can, because we are blessed.
Some authors that I read and some concepts that I've pondered is the idea of like the different dimensions that exist.
Yes.
So an example would be we're quote unquote living in the third dimension where all these kinds of things happens, war, strife, poverty, you name it, it happens. And in the fourth dimension or other dimensions, it's not necessarily that experience that you will have. I'm so fascinated by that. I want to live in the fourth dimension.
Well, at times you do. That's when you dream. You
Mm,
see,
mhm,
all of
mhm,
these dimensions that you're talking about are frequencies that we can live into at any given moment. And even though
mm,
there are people that are suffering, i.e., they're hungry, they can travel into
mm,
these other dimensions by simply changing their perception of their physical experience. So I believe that we can all live into each of these dimensions with enough enlightenment. That's what I believe, Buddhism is, right? They believe in these
mhm,
different transitional abilities to live on these different dimensions, even when they're in the physical body at times through meditation. But it can also
mhm,
be achieved through dreaming, through hypnosis, through aligning to your intuition, through meditation. These are simply different frequencies that we can find truth in. And when we speak about source allows you to visit these things through your alignment to it. Um, and all of these things, we align to the truths that we're ready to unlock within the knowledge that we're ready to awaken to. So when you were talking about how do we know what's real and how do we know what's not real,
mhm,
it's in essence what you're ready to believe and live into becomes the alignment that you evoke knowledge and you awaken to. It may be something that you didn't believe. Let's say when you were 8 years old, you didn't believe what you believe now, right? And as you got
mhm,
older, different parts of you were opened to knowledge, to information, but most importantly, to alignment. And so just because today somebody listening to this podcast thinks that what we're saying is out of this world and not at all what they
mhm,
believe, take it
mhm,
a year from the time in which they first heard it and they hear it again, and they hear it from a completely different place because they have aligned to the new message, the frequency. That's why when I give sessions to people, I
mhm.
tell them to record them and to go back to that message a month later, 6 months later, maybe even a year, because what you are able or capable of hearing depends on your alignment to what you're ready to live into.
So that's what you mean by alignment.
Yeah.
Yes. So you're basically tuning into that
Yeah, you
frequency,
can
the
you
higher
can hear
frequency.
that radio station or you can't hear it now. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I hear some static in the background. You're like, I don't hear any static. And I'm like, okay.
You're like, and then I see this person standing in the corner, which I don't like that part of being very sensitive to energy. I'll tell you that much though. I don't like that.
Me too.
Um, you don't like that either, or how are you
I
able to see
I I
spirits
have
and things?
I've been able to turn it off. I know what to tune into and what to tune out of.
Okay, yeah. Actually, let's touch on that really
Okay.
quickly
So
because this is going off topic maybe,
no,
but
it's all the same. Esoteric.
well, I get creeped out. Like I don't ever want I have felt something before. I've seen something before. I don't ever want to see it again or experience that again. And that's when I pray to God and I want to establish an armor where darker, lower frequencies don't affect my life. And when you talk about that, what are these darker, lower frequencies? Does that even exist? A lot of people don't believe that exists. And then, of course, I have the Catholicism in me, the idea of an heaven, hell, Eve, the devil, that kind of thing. But Buddhists don't believe in something like the devil.
But they
So, what
believe
are your
in the
thoughts?
different frequencies like we just spoke about. So think about it this way.
Mhm.
If you think about the part of you that is open to lower frequency, then you understand that what you're experiencing isn't not happening all the time. It's happening all the time. But there's a part of you that is either hurting, is angry, is in that energy so that the door is open. And so
Mm-hmm.
like some people talk about entities and that they have entities attached to them. And do I believe in that? No. I believe that some part of them is feeling wounded and energetically is open to the dimension that is lower. So it is feeling like an entity. It's feeling like a heavy energy around them. But what it is that that's the part of you that you need to love into a higher frequency and energy so that it cannot enter. So usually when that happens for you, maybe you've drank one drink, maybe you've drank more than one drink, you see? So be aware that everything that we ingest, should it be a negative movie, the news, people that we just hung out with that are energetically ugly, that's why it's so important that what you surround yourself is the same energy as yourself. So that you don't open the portal. Because we are all, like I said, we can all live into each of these frequencies, and you called it dimensions, at any time. They are happening at the same time. There isn't a future or a past. There isn't a death or a rebirth. We are simply shifting energy. You are a denser energy now than you will be when you are complete spirit. But it's happening exactly at the same time.
So since you don't believe in entities, it's more of a frequency, do you believe in the concept of good and evil?
Yeah, I do believe in the concept of good and evil, but I think it's a frequency. There's power in that negative energy. There's an intoxication in negative energy. Think of like when you were young and you did something bad that maybe you lied about, but it felt kind of good. Like we've all done that. We've all been that kid at some point in our life. And it felt really good because we got away with something, and then we're like, and then we felt shame, you know?
Yes.
And that's what Catholic, being brought up Catholic is too. But
For sure.
I think that your nature becomes your life, right? If your nature gets more out of that, then you will reside in the negative power of evil. And if your nature resides in feeling good and love and more connected to higher energy, then you will be, the other aspect. So they're both,
And experiencing that
but
over and
that
over again.
tells you that polarity is necessary in the paradigm that we're living in, because we don't know one without the other. It's the yin to the yang. It's all part of the balance.
Yeah. And also going back to the concept of neutralizing that kind of force where because it's a polarization, it's a natural occurrence, right, in this dimension, by showing it compassion, it's not going to be as evil, possibly, or as negative.
Well, you're bringing it into balance so that one doesn't have power over the other. You see, like the imbalance that's currently happening is so that we awaken to what our focus is on the collective. How have we become so complacent that these things that seem almost like barbaric, something that as the collective we feel we should have outgrown by now, are so much bigger than we could ever imagine, because we thought we were doing the work. And now we're seeing that somehow, the badger got inside the house and it's destroying it. We're like, how the fuck did that happen? How could it be so bad?
Yeah.
It's because
I guess we're all responsible.
well, we are all responsible. We all got comfortable. We got comfortable. I think of what happened. 2020 was kind of similar to the indicative of what 2020 vision is, which is we all woke up to how asleep we were to being comfortable with not doing our part to be better as the human race.
Mm-hmm.
We thought, well,
Mm-hmm.
we're doing, like for me, like I'm driving an all electric vehicle. I'm doing my part. Like I think of like how many things we considered were doing enough when, in essence, we weren't
Right.
living enough. We weren't living our own authentic personal legend enough. And I think that's what 2020 did. It kind of thrust forward how
Mm.
authentically we were living.
I love what you just said, our authentic personal legend. I love that.
Yeah, we all need to know
I'm
that
quoting
this
you.
is it. This is all we know. We don't know if we really do reincarnate. I mean, it's a
Uh-huh.
concept, but we won't know until we
Mm-hmm.
die. So, in the meantime,
Yeah.
we're all living to die. What's your personal legend? What are you going to live into?
That's beautiful. Oh my gosh. Tell me really quickly before we close, I want to know, first of all, two things. Where are you living and why did you move out of LA? And then secondly, what are some of the projects that you're working on where people can find you, like learn more about the tarot, learn more about your services,
Okay.
you know, next steps?
So, in 2020, December of 2020, one of my clients that I told would move to a desert scape in the middle of the country ended up doing just that. And when he ended up there, he said, well, come visit. Because he thought he was only going to be there for a week. And I said, well, I think you're going to end up there for 2 years. And he asked me to come visit. He's like, I'm settled, come visit. And I was looking for a road trip. And so I took a road trip to this place called Abiquiu, New Mexico. And if you
Hmm.
don't know where Abiquiu, New Mexico is, Google it. It's one of the most
Okay.
amazingly gorgeous places in the world.
Oh,
It's where
wow.
Georgia O'Keeffe ended up.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
later I found out that Shirley MacLaine ended up there as well, which she's one of my personal people that I would love to meet at some point.
Mm.
And I visited there, and when I ended up there, Spirit came and created a space for, and what I mean by spirit is that source, the land in Abiquiu is so amazingly magnetic and it's such a vortex, is that something that used to be a tool that I would have to tune into became something that I was surrounded by. The land is like a vortex to having me feel like source is not in my physical body, but it's also externally. It's outside my body and extended itself to me. So I felt
Oh,
almost
amazing.
evoking spirit. Um, and this was over Christmas of that year. And within a 2-week period of time, the group of people that were there and I created a evoking your soul teaching tool, how to create a conversation, a healing space for your soul to speak to you and bring you into your purpose and your alignment on this planet. And we did that for 18 days, and it transformed all of us to feeling really healed and connected and loved, and that feeling that you talk about. And so after this time, I said to Source, because it was about time to leave, if I'm meant to live in this place, I will find a place to live. And I did the next day, which was Christmas Day.
Oh,
Um,
that's incredible.
and so this happened actually on an eclipse on the 29th, which was my birthday that year. My birthday is December 29th. And the decision
Oh,
was made then to move to New Mexico and then start this new journey, which is what you just asked me. What am I meant to do there? Which is, this is my
oh,
next journey. is to create groups of people that come to this magical place and find their connection to their purpose and their soul while healing and feeling connected finally to that part of them that has probably been searching for it. And so that's the next journey. But in the meantime, I do sessions in tarot. And that is, if you follow me on Instagram, which is Nery Guide, which is spelled Nery Guide. All of my contact information is there so that you can order your own little mini information that you may need at any given moment while you're working through something. I do tarot, I do astrology, but most importantly, I connect you to the information that will guide you to the information that brings you peace at any given moment.
I love that. And do you do channeling? I can't remember.
I channel, but those are more group things. Those are something that I do mostly in groups. I do that for the collective groups that come together, which is part of the soul connecting that is going to be the retreats that are coming up.
That sounds so I want to go on one of your retreats.
I'm very
That
excited.
sounds
Yes.
beautiful.
So, yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. I'll put the link to all your information on my website and on the podcast Instagram profile. And last question of the day. What are some books that you have read that have completely changed your life?
The first book that changed my life was Biography of a Yogi by Yogananda. Another book that has changed my life is The Four Agreements, The Mastery of Love, and I believe that everybody should read any of Shirley MacLaine's books. I love the way she writes. It's like having a best friend tell you their life story whenever you open up one of her books. But if you want to get information or knowledge that leads you into a place of opening yourself to, how to teach yourself any kind of tool to bring you into alignment, I think that you should just trust your intuition. Books find their way to you.
That's so true. Absolutely. Oh, thank you. Thank you for everything, for sharing this and being on this podcast as my second guest. You are such a beautiful soul. I'm excited to see how these retreats unfold. And I'm definitely going to send all my friends to you, by the way. Just letting you know. Those are my Christmas and birthday presents, like readings from you.
Thank you.
And yeah, I mean, it's a good gift, right?
Yes.
I think it's the best gift.
And I do, my gift to people is that my rates are half price on their birthday. So, it's a great gift to give to yourself even. So.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Twist my arm. All right. Well, have a wonderful evening celebrating this amazing moment where we have a partial eclipse, right? For the Hunter moon.
Yes.
And and should we be doing anything tonight to celebrate this?
Full moons are about releasing. So write all your fears, all your doubts, let them go by burning them, and then evoke a prayer on how to allow whatever you're releasing to bring in your hopes and dreams into your reality.
Okay. Thank you, love.
Okay. Have an amazing night. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
God bless you. Bye.